This is Jets at Noon on 680 CJOB.
Welcome into Jets at Noon. I'm Tyson alongside Jim Toth. And we're coming to you live from the Boston Pizza studio for gourmet pizza and pasta. Bring the team to Boston Pizza. And this hour is also brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash on 690 St. Anne's Road and at washmethod.com. We'll give away a VIP text to a VIP texter for a VIP car wash, Jim. But
VIP.
It's Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, Tamana Tuesday.
Terrific Tuesday.
So many different ways that you could describe Tuesday.
Old Hot Mexico's favorite Tequila Tuesday.
Get a little Jose Cuervo.
Forte, let's be honest. You don't have to get too personal, but you ever had tequila?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I bet you have.
A little salt and a wedge of lime. Come on.
Get a little white unicorn and ride that right into the night, don't you?
Oh, yeah, I do.
I actually, it's funny. I ran into him when I was back home. I talk about Gary Saylor a lot. He's an old junior high coach I had, but him and his brother Nick played pro for the Calgary Kickers. And then his younger brother, Gary, and they were elite athletes that came out of my high school in Lethbridge. So they were like, when they were in university and came back to coach us junior high, they were like gods, right?
Of course.
And they lived down the street from my parents where their house used to be. And I run into him every time I go home because he'd walk his dog. And it'd be funny because it'd be like 2 p.m. And we'd be like, Jim? And I'm like, hey, Gary. And I'd be like, you want to have a beer? He's like, sure. But I went back to an alumni basketball tournament probably 10, 12 years ago now. And I said, what are you drinking, Gary? Like at the social. And he was like, tequila. And I'm like, I know, but how? And he just tequila on ice. And I'd never seen that before.
Yikes.
Yeah. Like I understand people sip a shot of tequila, like sip it, but he would just have like vodka on the rocks, but he would have tequila on the rocks. And I'm like, Gary, that's why your hair's gray, you're silver fox.
Oh, and that's pretty nails.
Well, and like I said, and he would have like a glass with rocks or ice, and then he would just throughout the night the same glass, like not several glasses, but the one glass would be his drink, and he would just sip tequila all night. And I had never seen that before.
The Sailors are tough.
The Sailors know what they're doing.
The Sailors are
Shout
tough.
out to the Sailors.
They're also tough, like Tyrell Bauer.
Tyrell Bauer's tough.
The Jets did sign RFA Tyrell Bauer to a 2-year deal with an average annual value of $875,000 yesterday. And Jim, we're going to talk about the toughness aspect a little bit later on in the show, and maybe where Tyrell Bauer can fit in. But first things first, there's always a front office survey done by The Athletic.
Right.
And the results are coming out later this week on that. We don't know what they are, but we figured why not we grade it ourselves and where we think that the front office stands right now, how confident we feel in the front office's ability. And I'm sure a lot of people on the text line are going to have a lot of takes on
why not
where
judge?
Things are going.
Why not? Why can't we judge? People always say, I don't judge. Let's judge.
Why not? 204-780-6868.
I don't judge Gary.
No.
Drink what you want.
Exactly.
Let's judge.
And it's like a vacation beer is the best kind of beer.
That's true. Yeah.
That and golf course. Those two, it's pretty elite.
Yeah, golf course beers. There's something about that for sure.
Yeah, in the clubhouse after, though. During the round's good, but in the clubhouse after, whew.
You don't like a little straightener when you're on the course?
Oh, no, I do.
Like when you start 6 over 3 holes, you don't go, maybe I need a little straightener here.
No, you do. But then after the round of golf's over, it's like,
oh, yeah.
You either play great and you're like, this tastes amazing, or you play absolutely terrible, which is me 95% of the time. Yeah. And you're like, okay, I deserve this. I need to get over this.
When Ace has got his 2, he's like, I have to buy the. And I never understood that. Like, I thought they should buy you one.
Yeah, they should.
Like, I felt like I should have bought Ace's one when he got 2 holes in one in the same round.
Yeah.
But he had to buy me one. And I'm like, keep it going, Aces.
I'm not complaining.
Get another one if you want.
I'm not complaining. But let's go over the criteria that we're going to be looking at when we are grading the Jets front office. And so there's 6 different criteria that we're looking at. Roster building, cap management, drafting and developing, trading, free agency, and then overall vision of the organization. So, Jim, let's start things off with roster building.
Okay.
Where do you go there?
With the Jets?
Yeah, we'll do a basic A, B, C, D, F.
Sure.
Skippy.
Okay. And the reason I like this is I look forward to all the, you're a homer. I'm not a homer, but so this is fascinating to me because so we're doing vision
We're starting off with roster building. So just overall, how the team looks right now when it comes to how they've built this roster and how this team is constructed.
And the reason I like this is what I was going to say is because it has nothing to do with how they like what prevents them from building it more or not, or all that. I say this all the time. I think roster building is done quite well here. They have the best goalie in the world.
Yeah.
Feel free to argue at me, top 3, whatever.
Top 3.
They have one of the best goalies on the planet on the roster. When I look at their forwards, the roster building. So this is for this coming season, or
it's just over like your confidence level in the team. So how you see things,
where they are right now. And that's what I meant about, like, we all know the parameters around getting players to come to Winnipeg and all that. But that being said, you still have to build something. So that's why I like this. The goaltending is elite. Even with Stuart Skinner here as a backup, I think it actually got better. The defense core is admirable. I like Josh Morrissey. In my opinion, I think Salamonson, when healthy, goes up to the top pairing, to be honest with you. And I think Dylan DeMello goes down to the 5-6 pairing with Ferraro, which I think will be a pretty dynamic shutdown pair. Penalty killing, shot blocking. Dynamics is strong.
Just lessens the load a little bit on Dylan DeMello.
Lessens the road, yeah. And I think Neil Pionk and Dylan Sandberg, I think both those guys could have a bounce back year. So I don't think it's like top 5 defense core overall, 1 through 6. They got that Jack St. Ivany, sorry. Jack St. Ivany coming in as well. I don't know much about him other than what I've read, so I don't know what he's going to be like. But I think overall their defensive group is good. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's top 5. I don't think it's sensational, but I think it's good. I think Josh Morrissey is a much higher ranked 16th defenseman. But when you think of how many defensemen are in the league, to be 16th overall is still pretty good.
Yeah.
I have them a little higher, so I think they have that. I would put them up my ranking of defense if they had another stud number 1 guy. And maybe that's a shutdown guy. Maybe that's the physical guy that everybody wants to see. But like the Victor Hedman type kind of, I don't even need the offense. I just need a big physical guy who can hammer some people and do something. I'd argue they really haven't had one since Dustin Byfuglien.
No, for sure.
And I'm not talking offense at all. I'm just talking about a physical presence that people were aware of on the ice and afraid of and stuff like that. So, but I think the defense is good. I think the goaltending's elite when it comes to the National Hockey League. And then the forward core is interesting because I think they have just as good as a top line as anybody does. I've said this for a couple of years now. They don't have the Connor McDavids, the Leon Draisaitl's. They don't have the Nathan McKinnons. They don't have the Austin Matthews, the Nikita Kucherovs. But what they do have is 3 guys that are very, very good. And together as a line, I think is elite. I think it's one of the top 10 number 1 lines in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I do agree with you that when it comes to roster building, they have a lot of the key positions locked up. Like you mentioned, you have an elite goaltender. You have an elite number 1 D-man in Josh Morrissey. You have a number 1 center in Mark Scheifele. And then you have an elite playmaking, goal-scoring winger on the flank of Mark Scheifele there. So there, you've tackled a lot of the hardest things to grab when it comes to getting guys in the NHL. But my issue is when it comes to the second line.
Yes.
And then when you look at, you mentioned too, just about getting that right shot defenseman, a guy that could play with Josh Morrissey. I think that's been a thing that hasn't been addressed in the last couple of years. And I think that having a guy that could allow him to be more impactful on both ends of the ice, because we've seen how he looked like when he played with Jacob Trouba. And now you wouldn't necessarily want Jacob Trouba now to be playing with Josh Morrissey, especially at that contract, but a guy like that.
But I love what you said yesterday. Like, I think Josh Morrissey's season last year was reflective of the down season Dylan DeMello had. Because when Dylan DeMello does not have a down season, Josh Morrissey is elite. And so I think it's part and parcel, right? So I do think it's time. And I like everything about Dylan DeMello. And I think he's got another 3, 4, 5 years left in him, just not at a top pairing one, if he can't bounce back. Like last year stood out to me, not so because of his overall performance, but the overall drop off in his performance consistently throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that just happens, right? It doesn't mean that he's not still a serviceable guy and can help the team and at the right price. I still like Dylan DeMello and all he brings to the team, but they need to. It's time at that age of DeMello to upgrade that on that side. So I like that part. But to me, here's the thing: a lot of people go like it's easy to draft Patrick Laine. It's easy to draft like a Mark Scheifele or a Kyle Connor. It's not. Once you have those key people in place. I think it's downplayed too much just how hard it is to get guys like that, to draft them, to foresee that. And let's go back. Let's not forget. Nobody thought Mark Scheifele was going to be able to skate in the NHL. Nobody thought he could stay on his feet long enough in the NHL. He's now an elite top 10 center in the National Hockey League. He just had 100 points at 33 years old. So I don't think that's hard. That's easy to find. And all you have to do is look at the past top 10 picks in the draft.
Yeah.
For the past 10 years. Some are really easy, very easy. Jack Eichel, Connor McDavid, those are. Some aren't. Some guys just don't pan out. So I think that's downplayed too much when you find the Kyle Connors and the Mark Scheifele. Kyle Connor was 17th overall.
Boston passed on him 3 times.
3 times.
3 picks in a row. They're like, no thanks.
So I don't think that's as easy as everybody thinks it is. But once you have those in place, I always say depth is how you win championships. I think that's how Carolina won. Nick Ehlers was on the third line. So I just think that depth is how you win championships. So as much as I don't think it's easy to find those elite guys, once you have them, the real work becomes in filling out the roster. And that's where I think that they need to improve.
And that's why I'll give them a B- when it comes to
Overall,
roster building. They've done a good job of getting the elite talent. Now it's about filling out the rest of the core.
I will go C+. I think it's a little less than a B- when it comes to the rest of the roster.
Yeah.
I think that
for sure.
Like there's the Niederreiters and let's go back 2-3 years. Niederreiter, Nemestikov is such a serviceable player and I really like him. But he's not that secondary scoring guy.
Yeah.
And they really need some secondary scoring. I like everything about Iafallo, Morgan Barron. I like Cole Perfetti. A lot of people don't. I like him. I believe in him at 24 years old that he's got a 60, 70-point season in him. But it's the timeliness of, is Niederreiter done? Is he not?
And you can knock him a couple points for the amount of wingers that they have, because they have a ton of wingers in that bottom 6, and it's like, well, you only have so many spots. But let's move to the next one, which is cap management. And I think that one's a pretty fair one.
I'll give him a C+ for the overall roster. I actually, B- C+. Okay, I'll stay around there, but they do have to improve the secondariness.
Yeah, absolutely. Cap management. I think this one will be in decent agreement on. The Jets have done a really good job at managing the cap over the last couple of years. And now there is that they're not going to be huge spenders when it comes to free agency. But, I mean, as things currently stand, they're just a bit under $4.5 million in the current cap space. So they still have a lot of wiggle room, and especially when it comes to adding at the deadline, when you accrue cap space throughout the year, if you don't put anyone on long-term injury reserve, you're able to bank cap space every single day. So if it comes to that, they could have a decent amount of cap space come trade deadline. So I'll give them a B+ on that. I do think that there's some times where maybe you saved a little bit too much cap room, but overall they do a pretty good job.
I'll give them an A for that, not even an A-. I think the contracts they have, the fact that you have a 100-point center making 8.5, you have an elite goaltender making 8.5, Gabe Velarde's making 6-something. He's a top-line winger. Like, your top-line winger is making 6-something in a world where top-line wingers make 8 and 9.
Yeah.
And I think we forget about that. Josh Morrissey's making $6 million for another 2 years, this year and next. That's ridiculous. Kyle Connor is making $8.5 million.
Well, $12 million now. Kyle Connor.
Sorry, I meant Connor Hellebuck. Sorry, 8.5. Yeah. Kyle Connor's making 12 now, but I think the cap management over the years has been, I think it's an A. I think that the contracts they sign, the availability they have, everyone talks about that time they quote unquote left $6 million on the table. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as if I'm not going to give a $2 million player that makes $5 million if he's not going to help us.
You don't want to spend money.
There's not a GM. The Winnipeg Jets do not leave money on the table. They don't go get players at the trade deadline because of cap space that probably isn't going to help them.
Yeah,
that's how I think it is. They've also done a phenomenal job when it comes to the cap of acquiring players with term. Like, they don't just buy, they have their rentals in the Toffoli's and the Monahans, but they also have acquired Niederreiter and guys that have another year left on them. So I think the cap management is an A.
Yep. No, maybe I was a little bit too harsh, but I'll stick with B+ just for argument's sakes. But the next one, drafting and developing, and this is going to be a big one, and we might have to break and then break down the drafting and developing thing, Jim, because that's going to be the hot topic of contention.
It will.
A lot of people are already bringing it up on the text line 204-780-6868. We're coming to you live from the Boston Pizza Studio, coming for lunch every weekday to Boston Pizza. Get a delicious main side and ice cold drink for only $15, only at BP. And when we come back, Jim, I saw an old clip, a throwback clip, and it really raised some questions for me. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. We'll be back with more Jets at Noon right after this.
Jets at Noon on 680 CJOB.
So, Jim, Tyrell Bauer signs an extension with the Jets. And this just popped up on my timeline fittingly after that news. It was the hit that Dustin Byfuglien laid on Mark Stone way back. And I just, watching it a couple times, all I could think about is that the hardest hit you've ever seen in a hockey game?
That was the hardest hit I've ever seen live. And I've seen too many games on TV that I can't, but live in the building, honestly, I'm like, he's dead.
I remember my brother had the exact same. He told me, he's like, I remember that hit, and that'll stick with me for the rest of my life.
And maybe because I believe I was in the press box. I saw it kind of developing. Like I saw him angling towards that, and I saw Mark, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, and you can tell the way he reacted too. That's the one where your whole body just goes, oh. Yeah. And then you got to skate
that's when you can't breathe, right?
Yeah. It's not even that you're injured. It's not like you sustained an injury or anything, but you are hurt.
Some people say that was this initial, like his back injury. I don't know if that was or not, but it definitely wouldn't help.
No, definitely not. I mean, it's tough to say. Well, let us know what you think. 204-780-6868. Is there a hit that you've seen live that just shocked you? I always remember. I didn't see it live, obviously, but I always remember the Pavel Bure hit on Shane Churla.
Oh,
that was a dirty. When we come back, we'll break down where the Jets front office ranks when it comes to drafting and developing, trading, free agency, and overall vision right here on 680 CJOB. Welcome back to Jets at Noon. I'm Tyson Rowicki alongside Jim Toth here. And Jim, we got a lot of texts on the text line, 204-780-6868. Bunch of people replying to the hardest hits they've seen. Unfortunately, this one hurts me, but a couple texts already are mentioning the Scott Stevens hit on Eric Lindros. That was a nasty one. The Paul Kariya one from Scott Stevens as well. I mean,
right, yeah.
Those were some pretty brutal ones.
Well, that Stevens on Kariya I watched on TV. That's what I mean. I've seen so many on TV but live in a building, that Byfuglien on Mark Stone is the hardest.
John on the text line says, big buff on Luke Gazdic. That was a big hit too.
Yeah,
Gazdic was. He kind of got.
I forgot about that.
He got put in a really bad position on that pass from whoever that D-man was, though. He's like back is facing Dustin Byfuglien and he's just getting lit up. It's, you run into those sometimes. But keep those texts coming, 204-780-6868. Also, Moose DuPont hitting Dave Babich. That's a throwback. Moose DuPont was a mean dude. He was a mean dude back then. But Jim, let's carry over the conversation we were having earlier just about where we rank the Jets when it comes to a couple different things from the front office perspective. And we went through the roster building. We went through the cap management. We gave them a B- and a C+ for roster building. And you gave them an A. I gave them a B+ for cap management. So now let's look at the drafting and developing. This is the tough one that everyone's going to chime in on here. And I think it's a little bit tough. We're not going to look at some of the draft years from 2023 onwards because those guys are still developing as we speak, right? Like a lot of things can change for those guys. So I don't think it's fair to include those when we talk about where the Jets are when it comes to drafting and developing players. But let's take a look from 2022 to 2017. The Jets picked Rucker McGroarty, Brad Lambert, Elias Salamonson, and Danny Zhilkin in 2022. Now, Rucker McGroarty obviously became Braden Yeager, who's now with the Jets. It's a little, you look at Elias Salamonson and he would have likely been in the top 6 had he not gotten injured this offseason, last season. So I do think that right there, that's a decent job getting Elias Salamonson. You would like to see Brad Lambert get a little bit more game time, but he's playing games. So it's not, I think that year's okay. 2021, Chaz Lucius and Nikita Chibrikov. I mean, Chibrikov hasn't really gotten a long shot so far in the NHL, and we all know about the issue with Chaz Lucius and unfortunately having to retire due to Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Then in 2020, Cole Perfetti, full-time NHLer. 2019, Ville Heinola and Simon Lundmark, two guys that never really got going in the NHL. Simon Lundmark only played one game, and that was for Tampa this past season. 2018, David Gustafson, second round pick. Declan Chisholm as well in the 5th round. And then in 2017, Christian Vesalainen, Dylan Sandberg, and Johnny Kovacevic.
Christian Vesalainen is, I think, the start where people started to question the drafting. Up until then, everybody, looked good and players were coming through. I remember the very first draft, they drafted a Sutter, and he just never made it.
Yeah.
He never made the show at all. And so, but that was also the Mark Scheifele draft, right?
Right.
And I think Adam Lowry, wasn't it? In the 3rd round? No, maybe not.
Mark Scheifele and Lowry were same draft.
Okay, so he was in the 3rd round. I think Sutter was the 2nd round, and he never played, I think. Well, no, I know he never played, but I think he was a 2nd round that draft. But I could be wrong. But so I think around the Christian Vesalainen time is when people started, he never played here, right? And he went back home, and that was a high 1st round pick. I believe it was a pick that was involved in a trade, and then they made that pick.
That would have been, I believe it was the 17th overall selection for
Christian
Vesalainen. But yeah, no, it's still decently just nearly outside the top half of the draft there. 24th overall. My apologies.
Right. So my point to this is they've never been afraid. I don't remember often covering a draft where they didn't make a pick that player was supposed to go before they got him. Even Bjork this year, at 8, they were shocked that he was there, but that's because there was a run of defensemen. And we all know Bjork could have gone in the top 5, and we all know some of the defensemen that didn't go in the top 5 could have. But that was just how it played out. The development is interesting.
Jim, I just want to chime in. Looking at the players that I mentioned there, it seems like they've done a pretty solid job at drafting defensemen and developing defensemen. I mean, we just look at this list right now. Johnny Kovacevic, Dylan Sandberg, Declan Chisholm. Billy Hanel got a couple games, but not enough, I think, to really make substance. And then Elias Salamonson is tracking on being a top 6 defenseman for this team. It's the forwards that's really been the problem. And I think we've noticed that on the Moose as well, where it just seems like there's been issues scoring and really getting those guys going and getting that confidence building in the minor leagues when it comes to their offensive game.
Yeah. Even in 2014, I think a 4th round pick, Chase DeLeo, who I covered with the Moose, looked like he had some potential, had some skill. And then even now, I Googled him. He's had 7 total games in the National Hockey League. He's with the Milwaukee Admirals. He did some time in Europe. So it hasn't been as spectacular as a current roster. And I think when you're drafting, and I'm not making excuses here because Kyle Connor was at 17. Billy Hanel was at 19, I believe, in and around there. And those are 2 players. One is exceptional and an absolute all-star and on his way probably to being a Hall of Famer if this continues. And the other one just never got into the fold for them. And even at the point where, when he got injured and then that curtailed him and now he's with Las Vegas and didn't even re-sign here. So there's always hits and misses. I think it depends on how you do drafting. Do I think it's exceptional or really, really, really good? No, I don't. Do I think it's still decent? Yes, I do. I think it's decent. I've always been told from scouts or just GMs that if you draft a player, even in the 1st round, and they play 200 or 250 games in the NHL, doesn't matter even if it's at a 4th liner 6 minutes a night, or Logan Stanley, a 1st round pick, and you see his minutes and his career, as long as they play in the NHL for 200 games, that's considered a win of a draft pick. Because what's lost in this is how many how many men want to play in the National Hockey League and are trying to play in the National Hockey League from around the world. If you have a 1st round pick that plays bottom 6 minutes and only averages 7 minutes a night, and he plays 200 games, that's a win of a pick. If you think of how many people are trying to get into the National Hockey League.
My issue I agree with you that the Jets have done a great job of drafting in the past.
Yes, and that's where I'm at. I just think it's decent now. I think for every player they draft and looks like the Zhilkins, the Chibrakovs and stuff that haven't made it yet, the Lamberts that look like they're going to, there is a Ville Heinola. And so I think it's decent. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it is terrible. I just think it is what it is. Even this year, with the Barlows and stuff, people were all over me about Corby Barlow, and I didn't see him play this year. But from what I understand, down the stretch, it came around, right? His first year of pro. So I just think it's decent.
Yeah, it depends. If they drafted a defenseman, I would go, I feel pretty confident in that pick. But over the last few years, when it comes to forwards, I do get a little bit worried. And I think that that's what made that 2018 team so good, was because that they had the core team, but then they were supplementing them with young players and having those guys learn on the go and then build confidence there. And I just haven't seen that enough from their forward prospects over the last couple of years. So I'm going to give them a C minus.
If there's great, good, decent, poor, and terrible, I'm at the higher end of decent. It's decent.
So you give them a C plus?
I give them a B minus.
I'll go C minus. I'm a little concerned about the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'll go C plus then.
Let's move to trading now.
Right.
When it comes to trading, where do you rank the Jets when it comes to trades? And just looking at their recent trade history, 2026 second round pick and a 2027 fourth for Luke Shen, 2027 second round pick for Brandon Tanev, Braden Yeager for Rucker McGorty. After that, you have to go back to 2024 when they traded for Tyler Toffoli and Sean Monahan. Toffoli was at the deadline. He went for second and third round picks, while the Jets gave up a 2024 first and a middle round pick for Sean Monahan, a third round pick. And so not a lot to go off of. There's the PLD trade as well, but not a lot to go over in recent memory.
Well, because I think we can do the whole 15 years because it's been the same management team. It's been Kevin Cheveldayoff. It's been Craig Heisinger. It's been the same. Like, I can understand if he'd only been here for 8 years, and then we should probably start 8 years ago. But I think if he's been here for 15 years, we can look at all of it.
But I think it's the current confidence level.
Okay,
you know, sure. If it was in 2018, I would be going, oh, Jets are A. Over the last couple years, though, I don't know if I would be that gracious in giving out such high grades, especially considering the past season where there were so many swings and misses that didn't work out. And then not only the swings and misses, but then relying on those swings and misses a little bit too much.
And that's how I'm approaching this grading, right? Like, I still defend that I don't think Gus Nyquist was the top 3 guy they were looking at. I think Ehlers and Brock Besser, and those were the guys. It just, when it came down to those options were gone, that it came down to Nyquist was one of the guys at his age willing to come here. They signed him. I'm not looking at it that way. I'm looking at it as you brought Gus Nyquist in and it was an absolute bust. That didn't work. Yeah. Like, the parameters around it, I'm taking out of this grade because I'm not going to sit here and go, well, this is what they were facing or this is how hard it is to sign free agents. I'm just going to look at the moves that were. There had to be some other Nyquists out there. And the fact that Nyquist did, I liked the risk. He was a year away from 70 points, and I thought, I'll ride with the vet if not. And then the speed of the game that changed this year, right, overall. But I won't include that on why it was Gus Nyquist. I'll just look at, you brought Gus Nyquist in, and it was an absolute bust.
Yeah, and so let's quickly look at trades. I'll give the Jets a B when it comes to trading. I mean, the last 2 trades weren't overly great, giving up a lot of draft capital for Luke Shen. I think the Brandon Tanev one's a little bit more understandable. It's still too high, but
I don't mind the Luke Shen trade because they recouped it. Like, if you didn't like what they paid for Luke Shen, you got to love what they got back for him.
Yeah, I do think that the Logan Stanley side of it was a little bit more for him than it was for Luke Shen.
Fair enough. But you just recouped everything you sent out for. Basically, you rented Shen.
Yeah. No, that's
you
fair.
rented him.
That's fair. So, and getting Ishak Rosane too.
That's what I mean, yeah.
I think a B is fair for Chevy when it comes to trades.
And turning Ishak Rosane in from Logan Stanley, and then I think the picks are, the rental of Shen. So I like that deal.
Yeah, and now quickly here, Jim, free agency. Now, free agency is tough because they haven't really done a whole lot of free agent signings. But this year, I think, was a step in the right direction. I like the signings of Stuart Skinner and Mario Ferraro. I think those are fair at face value. Now, if you wanted them to do more, that's one thing. But if we're just grading the signings themselves, I think those are fair value signings for players who have shown that they can provide actual value for your team.
Can I just go back to cap management again? Like, the Sean Monahans of the world are another prime example. 4 years, he got 5. He wanted to play with Johnny Gaudreau. I don't know how much that was a factor in, but he took 5 years in Columbus over 4 years for the Jets. That is good cap management. It was the same way back when Michael Frolik was here. And Michael Frolik, I heard, his partner wanted to go to Calgary in the Banff area. They were from Europe and they liked the mountains. But that wasn't the deciding factor. The deciding factor was Calgary gave him 5. Chevy was only offering 4. And they decided to pack up and go. And then the mountains and everything else came into that decision, from what I understand of that trade. But that's good cap management.
That's a very fair point.
That extra year, right? That extra year of having a Michael Frolik who didn't even finish that contract in Calgary.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. We're gonna take a break though here, Jim, and then we'll break down the vision. And we got a lot of texts here about hits. Larry Robinson on Gary Dornhofer.
Wow, we're going back.
Way back. Pat Quinn knocks out Bobby Orr with a borderline elbow. The Zdeno Chara hit on Max Pacioretty. That was a bad one. Brian Campbell hit on RJ Umberger. That one,
yes.
That's one of the hits that sticks in my mind. That was the first one. We're like, oh, he's really hurt.
Who was it that hit Bacchus and then Duncan Keith came by and said, "Wakey, wakey"?
Would that have been Seabrook?
I think, and it was a dirty hit, right? Like it was, or was it not? No, it wasn't penalized, and that's when the audio of Duncan Keith skating by going, "Wakey, wakey."
Yeah, that's a tough.
That was a big hit.
Yeah, it was Brent Seabrook. When we come back, we'll break down the overall vision of the Jets next here on 680 CJOB.
Jets at noon on 680 CJOB.
Coming to you live from the Boston Pizza Studio for gourmet pizza and pasta. Bring the team to Boston Pizza. And this hour is also brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road, and at washmethod.com. Jim, we got a couple more texts about the hits before we get into the vision of the Jets. Wayne Mackey on Ted Green was vicious. I haven't seen that one. I got to look that one up.
I remember I had to look that one up when somebody brought it up years ago. It's pretty bad.
Then McCowan on Howardchuk. That one made me mad because it cost the Jets a chance to win the cup that year. That comes from Kevin. And that's a fair point, Kevin. Yeah. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
And if you're talking like all-time villains, McCowan's got to be up there, especially for 1.0 fans.
See, and growing up in Lethbridge, if you, as a Flames fan, I like Jamie McCowan's a nice guy, and he's still very
sure
nice.
He is.
He's that, and like he didn't. But back then, like they just, so I get how he's vilified here and all that, but in general, I didn't find him an overly dirty player.
That one's bad.
The hit is bad. Yeah, that one is terrible. Like that's to me what I'm trying to say is I think that's a good guy, a clean player who lost his mind.
Hey, that it happens to everyone.
But I could be wrong. I don't know Jamie personally and all that.
Lastly here, Jim, right before we wrap up the show, want to talk about overall vision when it comes to the team.
Yes.
And I'm just going to go out. I'm going to put my grade. I'm going to give them a D+ with where their vision currently stands. I'm not too sure with where things are going. I don't know if, with the Connor Hellebuck situation, that's still unsettled at the time being. I don't know if this team thinks that they can still be a Stanley Cup contender because I think as things currently stand, they're not. Even if a couple things break their way, I just don't see them as being a Stanley Cup contender. And at the same time, I don't see them going the way and accumulating more younger assets and draft picks and prospects to kind of help build that pool that's taken a hit over the last couple of years.
Well, I'll do that. So we're pretty close on all the grades.
Yes. Like
within a percent or a grade or whatever, right? You're C+, I'm C+, you're B-. I'm a A, you're a B+, all that. I'll disagree on this. This is an organization that wants to win. It's under difficult parameters. The vision is to win. They are going to retool and reload and keep going at it to try and win. I don't think they're ever going to quote unquote rebuild. I don't think they're ever going to just trade off every asset. What they will do is trade some assets to improve the team when they have to, a la Connor Hellebuck. If he wants to go and needs to go, they will begin that process. But when you hear the parameters of the trades that are being offered, if somebody antes up one more piece, that's not like rebuilding, right? I don't think you're ever going to see a Connor Hellebuck trade at training camp, and then at the trade deadline, Kyle Connor's out the door, and then in the offseason, Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey, and they're going in the Calgary Flames direction per se. So I think they have a vision, and I just think it's not on the timeline that most fans want. It's you don't have to believe in this core. And I don't look at one season and think that's who anybody is. I've seen the NHL long enough to know that really good teams have had horrific years and been right back at it. And I'll point out somebody just south of here in the Minnesota Wild. How many times do you think they're hooped? How many times do you think that they're out of it? Or how many times do you think they have a Stanley Cup contender and they just don't play well? Nashville's another one like that. So I'll give the vision a C because I just don't know when and what and how, but I think they know. And they've proven that over 15 years. They've consistently gotten better once they've built something to where it is. The results haven't been there in the playoffs since 2018, but they built to 2018, and then since 2018, they've missed the playoffs how many times? Like the playoff success isn't there, but they have a vision of winning. So I think there is a vision. I don't know what it is. I can't tell you what it is, but it's not going to be to sell off these assets and retool and go in a different direction.
I just worry that it's a little bit too far gone at this point, and where winning, hey, maybe this group just doesn't have it. And that's sometimes what you have to make a tough decision, is that, hey, does this group have it? Do they not?
That is a phenomenal topic we can get into, because at some point you have to look at your core and go, do they have it to get over the next hump?
Yep.
That's a great topic.
Absolutely. That's Jim Toth. Special thanks to Jeff Forche. We're coming to you live from the Boston Pizza studio. Coming for lunch every weekday to Boston Pizza. Get a delicious main side and ice cold drink for only $15, only at BP. That does it for us today. Jim Toth's going to take you all the way to 2 o'clock, and we'll be back same time tomorrow. See ya.